For the first 3 videos in my Vegas series, the opening came from footage that I shot on the trip, that I actually recorded in September while driving to Vegas or at Vegas or some other such thing. For this 4th video, I have no such material because at the time, I didn't feel like bringing my video camera into the hospital.
Previously on A Body in Progress.
You saw Mark. I don't remember the photo. My thought and see, because in fact, by the time I reached Kanab, Utah, I was not headed anywhere fast. Yes, just in case not getting to meet my friends in Vegas was not enough of a kick in the teeth, life decided to put me in the hospital on this trip. I'll back up a little to St. George, where I spent the night in the Denny's parking lot. As I was laying down in the back seat of my car, my stomach wasn't feeling entirely too well. I thought perhaps it was indigestion, some kind of basic discomfort that would go away during the night, or that would go away in the morning with a good breakfast. So in the morning, when I still had this feeling of discomfort, I went and had breakfast right there at Denny's and figured that that would inspire, probably the use of the restroom soon or something like that. As I drove out of St. George and continued on my way eastward, the pain got worse and it started to just kind of fill up everywhere. It just really was uncomfortable and then became painful. To the point where I really was gripping that steering wheel and gritting my teeth and just thinking, come on, anytime now, what is this? Is this indigestion? Is this a gas bubble? What is it? Do I just need to go to the restroom really badly? But it just got worse and worse and worse. And it did not abate. And so I pulled off to a gas station and got some Motrin, the highest power you can get over the counter. Tried that and drove on a little bit more, and just still this feeling, getting out of the car and trying to stand up straight at the gas station, I simply could not. It was so tight that standing up straight actually hurt. So at a small town in Arizona whose name I don't remember, I started looking for signs for a hospital, and so this was Sunday morning. And I passed a church that was just letting out, a bunch of people coming out the front. I leaned out the window and I asked for a hospital. And they directed me north about 8 or 9 miles to Kanab. And when I got to Kanab, the hospital signs were clear and obvious. So I pulled in and I went to the emergency room. And I described everything to them. They got me all gowned up, went through all the basic tests and everything, and gave me an x-ray. And the result of the x-ray was that I had I forget the precise term. Not to be gross, though, but my intestines were basically blocked. But interestingly enough, they couldn't see by what. My intestines were full of air and fluid. Nothing solid, just air and fluid. And based on the doctor's reaction, my guess was he had not seen that before, or at least not very often, and could not explain it. To verify what was going on, they did run it's not a CAT scan, it's a M something. Anyway, they put me in a big expensive machine and ran a test, got a better look at it. It turned out that the blockage was at least not a medical issue. It did not need surgery as they thought maybe they first would need. It looked like they were going to have to take me back to St. George because they couldn't do surgeries at Kanab. They were going to ambulance me back to St. George and do surgery. But the the other machine, the second test, showed that did not need to happen. They gave me what they called the atomic bomb of laxatives, and said take this and Stay near a restroom for the next 3 or 4 hours. So I did. Now, the next part of my story doesn't have to be gross because for the next 3 or 4 hours, absolutely nothing happened. In fact, for the next 5 or 6 hours, nothing happened. The pain was gone because they gave me an injectable, high-powered pain reliever. But I never experienced a clearance sale like what I was expecting. Over time, I did use the restroom. And by the next day, without medication and any other such thing, the pain was gone. That was probably more than you needed to know, but there it is. That's another part of my misadventures to Las Vegas and beyond. And that particular step in the trip put me, raised the price of the trip from about $500 to $5,000. So this has definitely become a trip that I will not forget anytime that I look at my bank account. And so, from the hospital in Kanab, Utah, over 1,000 miles from home, with no health insurance and a pending bill of over $4,000, I continued on my way and headed back into Arizona. I stopped briefly at a couple of viewpoints, including Lake Powell, which was absolutely spectacular to look at. The video footage does not do it justice to stand out there and just see this sweeping vista. And I've lived in northern Utah before. I never quite got this far south, but it's still very similar territory up there, and they also have the Great Salt Lake. Long ago in the 80s, this was my regular territory. I've lived in Oregon now for 20 years, so to get back there and see that kind of landscape again felt so fresh and new and wonderful. But I mentioned that to a man in a gas station, and he said, yeah, well, when you live here your whole life, though, you kind of get used to it. And it's true. You know, I'm used to the stuff in Oregon, and as spectacular as it is, as much as I enjoy seeing it, to get out to this territory here in the border between Utah and Arizona and just see such unique rock structures and landscapes like we don't have in Oregon was just, once again, a refreshing feeling. It was exciting. I spent the night in Page, Arizona. I have no news from there, but in the morning I continued on my way, and by noon I was at my destination, the small town of Tisnospo and the nearby monument of the Four Corners. Behind me is the Four Corners National Monument. This is the place where Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona all come together in perfect right angles. Their four corners touch. It's the only place in the United States where this happens, and so it's very much a sightseeing opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to put one hand in one state, one hand in another, one foot in a third state, and their other foot in the fourth state, and literally be in 4 states at once. There are many places in this country where you can be in 3 states at once, but this is the only place where you can be in 4 at once, at least in one piece and alive and well. Anyway, this is my first time here. I figured since I was down in Nevada, in Las Vegas for the Mr. Olympia, and it really is quite rare that I get that far from home, I would tack on a few extra 100 miles to finally come see this, and hopefully, if my pectoral muscles and triceps hold out, to accomplish 50 push-ups for each of those 4 states before I leave. Thus, if it succeed, it will bring my tally up to 7 states so far. Anyway, let's go inside and take a look. This shot right here is a live shot of my entering the Four Corners for the very first time in my life. It was fascinating to look at. I know it. You hear about it and you think, okay, so there's this little plaque in the middle that has all four corners. Great. But it was interesting and exciting to be there. And it also turned out to be a very good time to be there. Apparently, it is quite the tourist trap in the middle of summer with long lines. There's even a sign that says, only 3 photos at a time, please, in courtesy to everyone else in line. When I was there were really only scattered people. The line was very short, and sometimes there was no line at all. To get in there, spread yourself out over the four corners, and get your picture taken. All right, it is time to begin the push-ups. Bear with me, this is going to take about 8 or 9 minutes, because by this time I've set a precedent. I showed all 50 push-ups in Washington, all 50 in Oregon, and all 50 in Nevada. I briefly thought about trimming this collection down, but I couldn't break tradition. You're going to see all 200. But when you consider that due to the temperature of the day out there and the wear and tear on my muscles, it took me over 2.5 hours. I think 8 or 9 minutes is doable for you. I think you'll make it. Just sit comfortably and enjoy. I did have people ask when I got back home, how did I do it? Did I do 50 in Utah, 50 in Colorado, etc.? I decided to kind of break with my tradition, kind of violate my own rules a little bit, and just for fun, actually rotate through. 10 per state, and you can see the scoreboard building up there. 10 in Utah, 10 in Colorado, 10 in New Mexico, 10 in Arizona, and then going around and doing it again until all states had 50 push-ups. I will save you a little time here with round 2 and put all 4 of them on screen at once, but again, I still did it in the clockwise order: Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona. Not wanting to lose track of where I was, I wrote the sets down as I went. I did not want to get home and find that I had missed some. Plus, it was very hot. I went through quite a lot of Powerade in those 2.5 hours. Just once I wanted to do this. 10 push-ups in one state, and quite literally 10 more in the next one. But you'll see as I get to the 10th rep here, that was almost a mistake, and I did not try it again. Before even leaving Oregon for this trip, I discovered a raging debate online over whether the monument is accurately located. In about 2009, a man posted an essay online claiming that it was off by about 2 miles, that the original survey done in the 1800s was not accurate. Not wanting to get to the monument and discover later that I had not actually done 50 push-ups in 50 states, I spent quite a bit of time researching. And I discovered that the man who posted the essay claiming that it was wrong was wrong. They've gone back and they've done some further research. And they've also followed national surveying policy, which was when a surveyor went out and created an original survey, if the surveyor was in the wrong spot, it didn't matter. Wherever he set his mark was where the new location was. So even if the original surveys back in the 1800s were mislocated, that is now and officially the location of the Four Corners. But it turns out that with modern scientific equipment and modern surveying policies and practices, they are able to discern that the original survey, done over 100 years ago with what would be considered relatively primitive surveying equipment, was accurate to within just a few inches. So yes, I can state with certainty that I did 50 push-ups in each of the 4 states. And there it is, the very first failure, stopping one short of 40 reps. And that started to become the course of the day because it was hot. I was chugging the Powerade, and even then resting as long as I wanted, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes between sets. My body was just not having it anymore. Here comes the second one, and another failure. Of course, this project is just for fun. It's just something I want to do. And knowing that I will probably never get back to the Four Corners, or at least not for years, I went ahead and said, it's okay. It doesn't have to be 5 sets of 10 like I had originally planned. Just get 50. So as we finish up here, you'll see that I kind of broke it down into smaller, pardon my throat, broke it down into smaller and smaller groups just to get through them without dying. And there it is, 50 push-ups for the state of Utah. And 50 push-ups for the state of Colorado. "50 push-ups for the state of New Mexico." And 50 push-ups for the state of Arizona. Feeling triumphant, I whipped off my shirt for a beastly growl and was instantly reprimanded by the Native American custodian of the site. I don't know if I just offended his personal sensibilities or if I actually committed a social faux pas among the Native Americans, but I have taken note, and I will pass this along to you. Do not go shirtless into the Four Corners. And because I had not yet put myself in all 4 states at once, I went and did a bonus set of 10 push-ups right there on the dais. There was a gentleman taking pictures with my camera, and right here at the end, he got down low for an artistic shot.
Oh, you want me to stage one? Ah! Hurry!
So I tried to hold it and give him something really worth shooting, but couldn't hold it for long. And then getting up, took my victory lap through all 4 states. Before I left, I wandered around the souvenir booths. I strongly contemplated a t-shirt saying I had been to the Four Corners, but my budget was now basically blown by a stop at a certain hospital. So I did get something for the wife and all of the kids. And just in talking with some of the Native Americans selling their wares there, they all apparently were vastly entertained by my 2-hour effort there. And one of them even gave me this little bracelet for free, just for coming and being a part of the Four Corners. So I have that to remember the adventure by as well. Leaving the Four Corners at 3 o'clock that Monday afternoon represented the last of my specific plans for the trip. But I had a lot of miles to go to get home, a lot of things that I would see along the way, and in keeping with the theme of the trip, I would continue to shell out a lot more money than expected.